Hi, I'm astrologer Penny Dix, and welcome to my midweek Astro Witter, looking at the energies for today, the 8th of October, through to the weekend, which will be the 12th and, yes, the 11th and 12th. So let's have a think about what's unfolding this week. We are, of course, coming out of the energy of the Aries full moon. Now, this full moon did not make any particular aspects to any other cosmic body. And so it was, you could say, pure lunar energy of the full moon in Aries, a cardinal sign, a fire sign, maybe coming to the decision to end something with quite a lot of determination, like that is finished, that is closed. That can even be to do with how we feel about things or our behaviors and our habits, like I am not going to be like that anymore. I'm going to find a different way to respond to situations. And the sun, of course, is in Libra. And so Libra, as we know, is about harmony, balance, and relationship. So we have to think about the second half of this week as having the backdrop of those energies in play. The sun on the one hand in Libra, and the moon sets the tone on Monday and Tuesday in Aries. Now, what we need to just look at before we move on to what's happening today is what happened later in the day yesterday, because Mercury, our planet of communication that rules Gemini, it also rules Virgo, and it is, of course, an air planet in a sense, because it's mercurial. It's the messenger of the gods. And Mercury slipped into Scorpio yesterday. Now, I did talk a bit about this on Sunday, and I did talk about the story of the turtle and the scorpion, and how Scorpio, as a quality or as a sun sign, has the tendency to want to have the final word. And the scorpion in the scorpion and turtle story has the final word, even though it costs him his life. If you want to hear that story fully, go and check out Sunday's live stream that I did. And I go through the whole story there. Now, the reason why it's important to look at Mercury's move into Scorpio is because it started off yesterday by trining Pluto, still retrograde in Aquarius at 1 degree and 22 minutes, although Pluto is preparing to stand still, to station direct, which will actually happen next Tuesday on the 14th. So this Mercury square Pluto, the energy is going to flirt with us over the next few days. So let's think a little bit more deeply about the energy behind this square. So it's an intense aspect. And we have to remember that with Mercury in Scorpio, Mercury will think deeply and strategically. Mercury will look beneath what is going on the surface and look for the hidden motives and evidence to look for and uncover psychological truths. And then if we think about the fact that it's making a challenging aspect to Pluto in Aquarius, and Pluto, of course, represents our collective transformation through technology, our social interactions. And maybe because it's Aquarius, having quite outlandish ideas or even ideals and feeling quite rebellious. So we could find around us over the next few days is some quite radical and rebellious discussions taking place, whether that is on our world stage or whether it is individually in our day-to-day interactions with others. It's important to be mindful to not get caught into the reactionary behavior that perhaps Mercury in Scorpio can really sort of stimulate as it squares Pluto. Now, Pluto also wants to strip down to the bare roots anything to do with the social sort of system that seems outdated. And Pluto in Aquarius wants to open up the space for new ways of doing things in terms of our social structure. So with Pluto on the one hand, pulling against the energy of Mercury, all about communication, with this square, we get this friction. A friction between personal truth and how that sits with our collective ideology. Because privately, we may have feelings and understandings that are appropriate for where we are in our lives, in our own smaller circle. But where does that fit in with a societal revolution? And I wonder whether over these next few days we will see far more energies suggesting people getting very impatient and really, we could see more revolutionary talk and freedom speeches and talks about not wanting to be controlled by governmental organizations. So we're going to have this friction, and it is going to last for a few days. This can be quite mentally tiring, especially for anyone who is in the public eye. So we may see our leaders really being put to the test, really having difficult questions asked of them by, say, journalists and other politicians and those that are underneath them, serving them. And there will be this desire of everyone to somehow gain from the leader, to uncover what is hidden. The absolute desire to know why certain things are perhaps kept hidden, or what it means when certain things may well be revealed. So we might see power struggles in communication. And remember, words carry a vibrational charge. And we may very well see a movement towards people wanting to control the narrative and certainly expose manipulation. I think you'll find at the moment that people will not be able to hide the truth from you. It may be when we are perhaps listening to what the world leaders have to say that we will be able to have this gift of inner sight and just know whether they are speaking truth or just being a little bit creative with the truth from the information they have. And there's a sense that there will be this energy of the awareness of leaders to recognize that the control dynamics they've been using will cease to become so effective, and that they will feel as if that the hold they have on society as a whole is slipping away, because the people are really waking up and saying, no, we don't buy into this. No, 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 no. So we've got those inner depths that Mercury can uncover in Scorpio, meeting the challenges and disruptions that Pluto in Aquarius can also uncover. So we may find there are some quite shocking revelations that come out around this time. The other thing that we might find we talk about more, even if it's just on a personal or individual level, is because it's Scorpio, we might be more drawn to talking about these subjects and topics which are taboo, like death, power, corruption, sexuality, social control. They are the sort of subjects which may come up anyway on the world stage, in the news, in stories that get exposed or revealed, and they will be under a spotlight. So there could be this element of whistleblowing over the next few days. If it doesn't come out now, then it'll probably be the following week when we get past this square and Pluto goes direct. In fact, Pluto going direct on the 14th could very well be that trigger point that reveals a lot of what's been going on underground. We might also see at the moment breakthroughs in science and AI. Now, is this good or bad? Well, I think we are aware that we need to be mindful and careful that we have some kind of handle on how we work with AI, how we master AI, how we can communicate with it in a way that we can interact with it productively, rather than it perhaps unwittingly, unless it's written into the program, trying to control us. But I think you get the gist. So on a personal level, it's a great time with this energy to do a little bit of inner reflection. It's always a good time for inner reflection. But it's quite good sometimes to think about, what are my beliefs and what are my truths? Am I too afraid to air my beliefs and truths to others or to a wider community? I think that these ideas will need reflection, and we need to make sure that we pause and think before we come out with anything that could be supercharged. Because our power lies in our awareness, not in winning the argument, which is that Scorpio-Scorpion in the story of the turtle and the scorpion. It's not about winning the argument. It's about looking at what the argument is about and not giving away your power. Now, what the turtle does in the story of the turtle and the scorpion, as he moves across the river and takes the risk that the Scorpion, even though he knows he's a bad un, won't hurt him, let alone hurt him, kill him, which of course he does. And we have to think all the time about the common sense in giving away our power. And in a sense, never give away your power. We can often get caught into situations where our power gets eroded in certain types of relationships, especially if there is long-term gaslighting energy around in a relationship. It erodes away your power. So I think it's important that we take a step back from that energy and not get caught into doubting our power, and recognize that as a sentient being and as a part of that divine source, we have an equality with all the other divine sparks, but we have a uniqueness. And it really is about honoring and working with our inner strength and power in a positive way. So that energy is going to be around all week, to a greater and lesser degree. And today, Wednesday, the moon will move into Taurus. And so we need to be a little bit mindful that we don't overindulge over the next couple of days, because note to self, do not overindulge, because I can feel it in my thinking. I'm just sort of thinking, doesn't matter. Well, actually, of course, it does matter, doesn't it? Because we hate it when winter comes up here in the Northern Hemisphere and we can't get into our jeans. And then we also hate it in the Southern Hemisphere if we can't or don't look very good in our bikinis. Mind you, I haven't worn a bikini for years, so it would have been irrelevant for me whichever hemisphere I'm in. So anyway, the moon will be in Taurus for a couple of days. And then by Friday, it moves into Gemini. And on Friday and Saturday, we will probably find we become much more talkative, much more chatty, maybe have some bright, innovative ideas. And so that is nice energy. Uranus, by that point, that is still retrograde and will remain retrograde for a while now, in Gemini, has actually dropped down to 0 degrees and 59 minutes. And it's not that long before Uranus will move back into Taurus. And that is going to be a very interesting experience. So let me see, what else can I tell you about the moon entering Gemini? I'm just looking at, so Uranus has a strong sextile on Friday to Neptune in Aries. So this can be, well, I suppose actually what I'm thinking, okay, this is what's coming to me, is something about a breakthrough to do with some medicine that can heal. Some medicine that can be used as a treatment that has not yet been disclosed, discussed, or we're not aware about. That is something that could come from Uranus sextiling Neptune. And of course, Uranus does still have its ongoing trine, which is beneficial to Pluto. Although Pluto, of course, remembering it's about to turn direct, that energy is going to be not quite so strong, but still there nevertheless. And then by Sunday, the moon will move into Cancer, which of course is lovely on a Sunday, because it reminds me of my old days where mummy, call her mummy, my mum would cook Sunday lunch. My father would come home late from the golf club pissed, and she didn't throw it at him, but it often got scraped off the plate and put in the bin. And the way we managed to work out the way to get round that was to actually go to the golf club and have lunch up there. That way she didn't have to cook and she could relax and have a drink too. And that used to work probably quite well, seemed to. So that's the energy of the next few days. So let's see how it unfolds. And when I see you on Sunday for the Sunday week ahead forecast for the astrology, we will see where we are then and look at what's going on next week. And as usual, I have a few quotes. And this time I'm continuing with the theme that we had last Sunday, which was about being authentic. Because, and in this sense, this is about being true to yourself. And so our first one is Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment." Brené Brown said, "Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are." There's an unknown one here, which is, don't trade your authenticity for approval. Ooh, that is so true. And, I wish someone had taught me about that through a lot of my years of growing up, even probably into my 50s and early 60s, because it takes a lifetime to fully strip off all these outer layers and go, here you go, this is me. And finally, we've got a lovely quote from Lao Tzu that says, "When you are content to be simply yourself and don't compare or compete, everyone will respect you." And I think you have to get to a certain point in life and have a certain amount of life experience under your belt to get to the point where we can allow ourselves to be that. I'm going to read it one more time because I think it's actually quite important. When you are content to be simply yourself and don't compare or compete, everyone will respect you. So there we go. That's what I have to say in the midweek Astro Witter. And remember, if you would like to have a session with me, remember to go to my website, pennydix.com. And, I'll say this again, I did say it on the Sunday live last week, that, I know a lot of the world is having quite a lot of serious financial difficulties. So please, if you really need a session, you can ask me and we'll find a fee that suits both of us, because it's silly to deny yourself some support and a listening ear and a look at the energies just because maybe you don't think you can ask. Please ask me, because I will happily negotiate a lower fee. So remember to like, comment and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye for now. Bye.